10 isekais to help cure your isekai addiction. Let's go. In no particular order, starting off with Reincarnated as the mastermind of the story. The story starts off on Earth, naturally, with our main character Ren, and he's playing a very popular game called The Legend of the Seven Heroes. And because he decided to speed run the game, he cleared it with the fastest record in the world. And when he did that, he got the option to start a special playthrough of the story. And naturally, he's like, that sounds dope as hell. So he clicks yes. And the second he does, that's when his isekai shenanigan adventures begin. He immediately gets isekai'd into this game world. Now, he does not get isekai'd as the main character. He gets isekai'd as the hero's friend, who eventually ends up betraying the hero. And with our main character Ren knowing all this, he wants to try to set out and make sure that the betrayal doesn't happen and that the events of the game do not play out in real life. Now, so far, there's only a couple chapters, so we really don't know too much about this, but from what I've read, I really enjoy it. The main character does not start off incredibly overpowered. He does have the possibility to get really strong, but he still has to work for it. Like, he trained for like 3 years and barely raised up his level at all. So it's not like he's just gifted the greatest cheat ability of all time. He has to work for it. So hopefully this doesn't fall into stereotypical isekai tropes, but if you like the idea of somebody getting transported into a game world, kind of like Sword Art Online, but it's not Sword Art Online, check this one out. Next up is, did I seriously just get reincarnated as my gag character? Very similar to the first one, our main character also gets isekai'd into a video game world. Now, I know what you're thinking. How did he get isekai'd? With a little help from everyone's favorite Truck-kun. Thank God. I've been missing him. We haven't been seeing him that much recently. But our main character gets isekai'd into a video game called Real World Online. And in this video game, he didn't get his main character. He didn't get his secondary character. He got reincarnated as his gag character. And not only did he get reincarnated as his gag character is also a woman. So the first thing he does is, naturally, you gotta play with the boobs. Now, this story doesn't take itself too seriously. It's mainly just a comedy, and there is some Yuri involved. But really, if you want to look at it, it's just a comedy and it's a fun read, so don't take it too seriously. It's all about our main character just pretty much doing whatever they want and just living out and behaving like their character would if this was the actual game. Like, in this new world, she's so much stronger than literally everybody else that if she were to fight anyone, she really doesn't even have to try. So naturally, she does not have to worry about literally anything and can behave and just pretty much do whatever she wants. So she eventually ends up saving this girl, and after giving a little bit of smooch, they develop a bond, and she becomes very protective of said girl. And if anything were to happen to said girl, she loses it. So the story is really just a comedy about getting isekai'd into a new world when you're incredibly overpowered and just want to act and behave out all those cringy impulses that you would have when you were in middle school. So if you want a funny isekai read that doesn't take itself too seriously with a little bit of Yuri, definitely put this one on your list. Handyman Saitou in Another World is a really different isekai than a lot of other ones I've read. It's all about our main character, who in the original world is a handyman. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He's pretty much like your stereotypical uncle that knows how to fix everything around the house. But he does get isekai'd into this new world, and in this new world, naturally, it's your stereotypical isekai world. His handyman skills are very, very valuable, and he immediately becomes useful to everyone around him. Now, the only bad part about this manga is the chapters are really quick. They're only like 4 pages, so you're gonna fly through this thing. There are a lot of chapters, but you're still gonna fly through them pretty quick. And also, I really enjoy how the main character, even though he gets isekai'd into this world and doesn't really have any powers, he's still extremely useful. He's like the ultimate support character. He gets isekai'd into this random house, and they naturally just automatically know that he was from another world because of the magic that he's giving off. So he eventually starts helping out these people. They form a party, and he's pretty useful. He's like the ultimate support character, being able to pick locks to help people navigate. He even picks up a shield and defends some people at some points. So he's not completely useless. He's not like all brains and no brawn. He's pretty brawn. He knows how to get some shit done. He's like the ultimate thief. And every character that they've introduced so far in this manga, I've really enjoyed. There hasn't been like one character that I'm just like, oh, this stereotypical character, or oh, this guy shows up again. Every character that shows up is very interesting and unique, and I really like that about this. There's never a lull moment in this manga, and I'll also say this so you have something to look forward to. At one point, they find a Roomba. No joke. At one point, a Roomba makes its appearance, so you have that to look forward to. So definitely check this out if you want something different than your regular isekai. God's activity in a world without gods is a very unique take on the whole isekai genre. It all starts with our main character, Yukito. In the original world, he was the son of a very powerful cult leader, and in a terrible cult-like accident, his father accidentally kills him. So he proceeds to get isekai'd into this new world. And in this new world, gods and magic isn't really a thing. So he settles down in this town, he gets a job, he gets friends, he starts making a life for himself. But that's when this crazy world starts to show itself, In this world, humans can live for a very, very long time, and the government has a list of people that have to kill themselves, and if your name's on that list, it's time for you to die. So long story short, because I want you guys to read this because it's actually a really good read, the god that his cult had been worshiping in the previous life ends up coming to this world with him, and now he has to start a cult to get this god to be more powerful so he can protect the village. It's a very, very funny story, and I would definitely recommend it. There are some like serious moments where you're like, oh, that actually just happened. But then immediately, like right after that, it's preceded by a bunch of funny moments. So if you want to watch a character try his best to start a cult with like a useless goddess, like literally imagine Aqua, but way more useless, that's what he's dealing with here. It's a very funny take on the whole isekai genre. I think the world itself is pretty interesting, and it's definitely very, very funny. So check out God's Activity in a World Without Gods. This is Screwed Up, but I Was Reincarnated as a Girl in Another World is a manga that I have to include on this list because it wouldn't be a list unless I included some degenerate stuff. Now this is a gender swap isekai. So our main character gets isekai'd into this new world, but he gets isekai'd into this orphan girl who had been like kind of sold as like a sex slave, and eventually due to an accident, I guess that's when the whole isekai thing took place, she gets all of her memories back of her previous life, and from that moment she's like, I ain't doing the stuff that we used to do, we're starting a new life. So she escapes into the forest where she tries her best to survive until eventually she figures out, hey, I'm pretty powerful. She has a bunch of really powerful magic, a bunch of standard isekai ones like storage, appraisal, but she also has some very, very powerful ones like creation magic and life magic. She can literally will anything into existence. Her race is the celestial race, and honestly, at some points, it feels like she's a literal god. She can create houses and put them in her storage. She can literally create anything she wants. So naturally, if you got isekai'd into a new world with all this power in a female's body, you're just gonna pound yourself 24/7, and that is exactly what she does. She goes on adventures and meets a bunch of new friends, and whenever she gets the chance, she plays the solo game for hours and hours. And the rest of the story is pretty much just her being really overpowered in this new world, dicking around, exploring, meeting new friends, and trying to really not stand out too much, but eventually does end up sticking out a lot, and even gets like a stalker at one point who she tries to constantly avoid. It's a pretty funny story. I like it. It's not like a great story read or anything like that, but if you just want something to chillax and read, and just watch a middle-aged man in a girl's body do exactly what you think would happen, then give it a read. Now say you're more of like a dungeon building, world building isekai kind of guy. I became the demon lord, so I created a dungeon and spent heartwarming time there with non-human girls is going to be the one for you. MC, Reincarnated, he's a demon lord, he's got his own penthouse suite, aka a dungeon. And in order to kind of like protect his dungeon, he ends up getting like this harem of monster girls. He gets like a dragon and a vampire girl. He gets all sorts of monster girls, and he's able to build his dungeon to get stronger and stronger. So if you're like a big fan of the whole dungeon building thing, I know that's like a really big subgenre of isekai. I think this is definitely one of the better ones. There are a bunch more ones similar to this that are probably just as good, but this was one that really stood out to me because I'm a huge fan of like monster girls and stuff. That's awesome. So if you like monster girls, you like dungeon buildings, and you like isekais, you might want to read this one if you have not already. Now, Master of Monsters is another really good isekai that I've actually been reading for quite some time. I think I've even read the light novel of this. And it all starts off when our high school gets isekai'd to this new world. Now, when they get isekai'd to this new world, they're kind of in the middle of like nowhere. And a bunch of students have really good powers, and a bunch of students have like iffy powers, and a bunch of students have like no powers whatsoever. So the students eventually ended up organizing themselves into the stay-at-home group and the exploration group. But one day when most of the exploration group is out, the ones that decide to stay behind immediately start slaughtering and forcefully Minecraft bedding the stay-at-home group. Everything's gone to shit, people are dying, everything's on fire. Our main character gets beat down and almost dies. Luckily, he is able to escape, and thanks to a slime, he is able to survive and get healed up. And that is when he comes to the realization that, hey, I actually do have a power. His power is Monster Tamer. The first one he gets is a slime, and he ends up surviving with the slime for a little bit until they eventually come across the dead body of one of his classmates, and the slime is able to dissolve the body and take the form of said girl. And ever since his stay-at-home group got brutally murdered, he ends up really not trusting any humans and decides that he's only going to trust monsters from now on. So he runs off into the forest and ends up taming more monsters and actually gets more powerful as this goes on. And the thing that I really like about this manga is just the unique type of monster girls that are in this. You got your slimes, but you also have like your doll. So like these wooden dolls like run through the forest and they attack humans on sight. But he's able to tame one, and that one becomes one of his monsters. He's able to get the spider girl, who becomes one of his most powerful monsters. But if you want more of a dark isekai with monster girls, you might want to check out Master of Monsters. Next up, we got Savage Hero. Again, you know it's not a list unless I include some with big boobas. So 10 years ago, our main character gets reincarnated in hell. He gets reincarnated as an incubus, which pretty much means he has power. It's like the opposite of a succubus. Now he has power over women. And he gets stronger and stronger by doing the deed with said women. So he gets like these unique challenges like, all right, you're gonna have to do 3 elves or you have to perform this sex act. He gets stronger by doing challenges like that. But eventually he gets to a certain peak where he can't get any stronger. So he decides that I'm gonna go out and explore the world and I'm gonna find tons and tons of beautiful women and I'm gonna get even more powerful. So that's what he does. And that's the story. He's just going out, finding beautiful women and doing the deed with them, marking off those challenges. He's doing it all for the gains. He's not doing it for the sexual thrill. He's doing it for the gains. He's just trying to get stronger and stronger. Like he turned down the demon lord position because he just wants to go out and bed more women. That's an alpha move right there. So if you really just want boobas and an overpowered main character and monster girls, Savage Hero, go read it. That's all there is to it. Now, if you were wanting an isekai where the main character hides his true strength, the magic in this other world is too far behind is the one for you. In the previous world, magic was a thing. Our main character could use it and he was average at it. He wasn't great at it. He wasn't shitty. He was middle of the road. But magic was not known to everybody. It was hidden from the masses and very few people could use it. So one day our main character and his friends get isekai'd into this new world. And in this new world, magic is very well known. Everybody knows about it and people can use it. But compared to the original world that they were from, it's way too far behind. So after they get isekai'd into this new world, he immediately does his best to make sure that no one can tell how strong he is. He starts like assessing the situation, trying to get a feel for what exactly is going on. And the kingdom decides that, hey, that guy is not really that powerful, but these guys, these are the heroes. So they start parading these two as heroes while they treat him as like kind of useless. They don't like throw him out into the streets to die like a lot of other isekais, but they don't treat him too fondly right off the bat. And eventually the heroes get asked to go and fight the demon army. And our main character's like, nah, I ain't doing that. He knows what real fighting is and what real war is like, and he doesn't want any part of that. And he tries his best to persuade his friends from doing that, but unfortunately it does not go his way and they end up going out to fight the demon army. And from there, our main character goes off on a little adventure and ends up becoming pretty intertwined in the world affairs. Despite not really wanting to be intertwined in the whole world affairs, he gets involved. And in this new world, he's very powerful because his world's magic was way more advanced. But he's not like so overpowered that he can one-shot anything. He definitely has to take some adjusting. Like he gets into a couple fights where he's like, why isn't my magic working? And he has to figure out why it isn't working. And then he has to change up his strategy. So he's overpowered, but he's not like incredibly overpowered. Like he still gets into some situations where he's really got to fight his way out of. And all the while he's doing his best to make sure like people don't figure out how strong he is or who he really is. It's a good read. There are plenty of chapters. It's a really solid isekai. Last but not least, I Can Always Go Home, so I started as a peddler in another world. Kind of different take on the whole isekai genre. Our main character's grandmother ends up passing away and gives him her house. And in this house, he finds a doorway connected to this other world. And he also gets a letter from his grandma pretty much explaining everything, like what the door is and what to expect in this new world. His grandmother had pretty much been the isekai hero before him, going on all sorts of adventures in this world. And now that she's gone, she passed it all to him. So he goes to this new world, he starts exploring it, and he immediately figures out a way to like get rich quick. Like this man has a get rich quick scheme and he is involved in it. So he finds his way to a town and he ends up kind of like helping the town out by using things from his world that he can bring through the door to this world. He's able to get rich, help the town out, get a bunch of friends, help out adventurers. It's not going out and fighting monsters isekai as much as it is a world building isekai. And our main character isn't really like a scumbag or isn't stupid. Like he plays it really, really smart majority of the time. And everything that he does is kind of like similar to how like you or I would handle this. Like when he does things, you're like, yeah, that's probably what I would have done in that situation. So he's not like a complete imbecile or he's not like a complete asshole or anything like that. He's a pretty normal main character that you can identify with. So if you've ever fantasized about bringing modern technology and modern things into an isekai world and getting ridiculously rich off of it, then you might want to check this out because he might give you a couple pointers. So that has been 10 isekais that hopefully cure your isekai addiction until I come up with another video. If you guys enjoyed, like, subscribe, bell notification. That's it. Peace.